Hi, I'm John Cash. Welcome to John Cash Ministries Daily Devotion. Today I want to talk about unity and peace. How can we get some unity and peace in our families? How can we get some unity and peace in our churches, in our workplaces? Well, the Bible says that it is love that will do that. In Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1, 2, and 3, the Bible says this: As a prisoner for the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you've received. Paul was a prisoner of the Lord. Now, what that means is he was in Rome under house arrest. He was a prisoner there because of the gospel. And he says, I urge you to live a life worthy of your calling. Now, why is he doing this? He's got reports back that the churches that he began in different parts of Asia Minor, in particular, this is the church of Ephesus, why we call it Ephesians, they weren't doing too well. There was a lot of gossip. There was a lot of backbiting. There was a lot of bickering and complaining and grumbling. And he heard about this all the way back in Rome. It got back to him, so he sent them a letter and says, you got to straighten out. Understand, it's important to live a life worthy of your calling. They were called to be Christians. They were called to what? More than anything else, the Christian is called to love one another. We are called to love those in our churches. We are called to love those in our families, no matter how hard it might be. So he says, I urge you to live a life worthy of this calling. God has called us to do it. We are to do it. Verse 2, he then says, be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. The key to getting this right is love. It says here to be completely humble and gentle. These are traits of love. But what happens is, before we can have love, we got to have humility. You see, humility is really the beginning stages of every other godly trait. Just like pride is the beginning stage of any sin, humility, coming before God and asking him to change you, admitting you're a sinner, admitting you just haven't done a good job in your life, is the beginning to have all these godly traits that will bring peace and unity into our families and into our churches. So he says, be completely humble and gentle. Then he says, be patient, bearing with one another in love. You see here, love is the key, this humility and this love. If we do not have love for one another, we don't have anything. If we don't have love with one another, then we're not going to be patient. If we do not have love for one another, we're not going to be unified. If we do not have love for one another, we're not going to be at peace with God or anybody else. So he says, be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. In other words, that means to put up with each other. You got to know somebody that you put up with. You don't want to in the flesh, but God says you need to be what? Loving, long-suffering. That is a trait of God. Love is long-suffering. We see that in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the love chapter. And so to be able to have unity and peace, you have to put up with others, bear with one another. Not their good traits. You don't need to put up or bear with that. It's to put up and bear with their weaknesses and their sin. Then in verse 3, he says, make every effort to keep the unity of spirit through the bond of peace. In other words, never give up. Keep trying, keep trying. You fall on your face, make every effort, go back and try again. To do what? To do what? Think about it. To make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. You see, the unity and the peace happen when we get verse 1 and 2. And what do we need in our families and in our churches more than anything else right now? We need unity and we need peace. Gossip will destroy a family. It will destroy a workplace. It will destroy a church. It will destroy a country. Bickering and complaining will do the exact same thing. God has called us to be unified in the Spirit through, watch this, the bond of peace. Are we bonded with other Christians? Do we love other Christians? And do we have peace with God so that we can have that bond with other Christians. You know, if you're not at peace with God, chances are you're not going to be at peace with anybody else. God bless you. Thank you for your support of John Cash Ministries.